Welcome back to Business 140, Personal Financial Planning, with your online professor, Joseph Lane. Online professor, all right. When you viewed chapter 13, I forgot to put chapter 13 up there, so I did put it up there here. Now over here, I forgot to put it again, so we are in chapter 14. This chapter is a chapter called Planning for Retirement. I enjoy doing these videos for you, but I miss having you. Again, I'm in room 363 where I do. This is where Professor Pierce is, my executive producer, has set up the camera and the lights and everything. But I miss having you in here. And in some chapters, I miss having you in here even in more, because there's just some chapters you just need to have folks in here with me when we do these particular things. Now, this chapter is called Planning for Retirement. And here's the way I normally start that chapter off. I would say this to you. Now, we're doing a chapter today that I don't care anything about. I have to do it just because I have to do it. But I don't care anything about it. And that chapter has to do with retirement. Now, why don't I care anything about it? Because at my slightly advanced age, if I ain't done nothing about retirement yet, it's just about too late. But I have. So I do care about this chapter. I've cared about this chapter a long time to plan for retirement. So here's the question. I know you're thinking now, retirement, I hadn't even gotten that first job I really want yet. I got to get married. I got to have kids. Retirement. When should I start talking about or thinking about retirement? When do you think? Right now. Right now. This is when you need to start thinking about retirement and doing something about retirement. If you read much about personal financial planning, one of the big areas or issues right now is this, and it's really a great thing. If you're 18 to 24, you're probably going to have 30 or 40 years of your career. 24, 34, 44, 54, 64, 40 years maybe. Depending on whether you want to retire at 55, 60, 65, whatever. But let's say that you work to 65. What's your life expectancy? Well, your life expectancy is 85. So after you retire, you're going to have 20 years in retirement. If you retired at age 60, you could have 20, 25, maybe even 30 years in retirement. You say, man, that's great. You're talking my language, because people are living longer. And I like that myself, the idea of living longer. But here's the thing. How do you want to live in retirement? I want to live good. I want to live a good life. And if we were in class together, I'd say, okay, what do you want to do when you're retired? Some people say, I just want to lay back on the beach. Or some people say, I want to travel. Or some people, I want to go to Colorado and have a camp up there and hunt. I just want to shop all the time. I don't know, but whatever it is. But you want to lead the good life during retirement. Okay. So here's the problem in all that. Let me get you here. Here you are, and you're smiling, and you should be. I've kind of put up the full meal deal here as far as kind of personal financial planning. Here you are. This is a timeline. You have financial goals. This one right here may be a new car. This may be a house. And you're doing an annual budget. Part of your annual budget is saving for your financial goals. You are accumulating wealth. That's what we want to do when we do personal financial planning. We want to accumulate wealth during our career. Bought a house, bought a car. Of course, here's a truck. We have good insurance to protect our wealth from being snapped away from us. But today's lesson, chapter 14, is right here. That's that last financial goal that you're going to have, which is planning for a really good retirement. It's not a problem, but the situation that you face is, let's say you live in retirement for 25 years, and you want to live good in retirement. Well, if you're living good in retirement, are you going to be spending money? Yeah. Is he going, You're going to be doing things that cost money, yeah. So you got 20 or 25 years that you're going to be spending money, living a good life. What if your retirement outlives your assets? What if you haven't put aside enough for that period of time to retire comfortably? Man, I've lived to the point I've left myself right back into poverty. That's a terrible thought. So, can that happen? Yes. Should it happen? No. Because you plan for retirement. Okay, let's see what this is all about. If you look at my beautifully prepared notes here, I say this chapter isn't for me. Well, that's not true. This chapter is for me, and I prepared for this chapter many years ago. Okay, and we talk about you want to live in style, and I talked a little bit about the number of years that you could be in retirement. Personal financial planning is incomplete without retirement planning. If you aren't doing retirement planning, you're really not doing all the personal financial planning. It's kind of like if you don't have financial goals, you can't do personal financial planning because you don't know what you're doing. You don't know where you're trying to go. You got to have a budget. No budget, you can't really do personal financial planning. It's shooting in the dark. If you're doing personal financial planning and you're 25 years old, you've got retirement on your mind. Now you want to live well and you want to have a great and productive life. But you still, in the back of your mind, you've got to be making preparation for this. Okay. Here is 3 things that really mess up people as far as personal financial planning. By the way, I'd be familiar with the fact that personal financial planning is incomplete without retirement planning. I'd be familiar with that. This next thing I would know, the 3 huge pitfalls to retirement planning, the things that can mess up your retirement planning. Pitfall number 1, you start too late. Now I am serious. Let's say I had done nothing towards retirement. Oh, that's scary. I'd lived a good life. I've made good money. I've spent good money. I hadn't put anything aside, anything like that. I'm going to have a little Social Security coming in or something like that, but that's it. I'd be in trouble. So start early. The earlier you start, the easier it is for you to be able to come up and have really great retirement at that time. We put away too little. Now look, right now, you may be having a hard time making ends meet, especially right now at this crazy time, okay? But if you can put away, we talk about saving for different things, you need to be putting away some money for retirement. And there's other ways, and we'll talk about this, how you can plan for retirement. But if it's only a little bit, $5 a month right now, just have a certain amount of money you're setting aside to do things that can help you with your retirement. Number 3, we invest too conservatively. Now probably from listening to me on a couple of these, and maybe one we did in person, I'm kind of a conservative investor. That's why I like mutual funds. However, there's one thing that's true, and this is the investment market. Primarily the stock market, but it's the investment market. As we've talked about, investments, it's like this. It's up and down, but it's like this also. If you track the investment market over the last 30 or 40, 50 years, if you track the stock market over the last 40 or 50 years, it has continually gone up. Now there's times it's down, there's times it's up, but if you draw a line right through the center of those ups and downs, it has a nice upward trend. That means that the market is moving in the right direction. So if you make an investment right now, and that investment is going to be an investment that you have for a long time, then you can ride out any ups or downs in the market. Does that kind of make sense to you? You can be fairly, you can be at least, if you were doing mutual funds, you could do at least growth funds. Maybe even aggressive growth, but certainly growth funds. Because even though there may be some downturns, over time, it moves up. Now, as you get closer into your retirement, then you want to make some changes. I'll jump way ahead, then I'll jump back. we were investing in mutual funds, which is a relatively, it's not as conservative as some, because we were in growth and income mutual funds, which is kind of a mid-range as far as risk is concerned. But about a year before my wife retired, we moved out of mutual funds into an annuity. An annuity is a very safe investment vehicle. Doesn't have the potential for gain. But what I'm saying is, as you get, number 3 here, we invest too conservatively. You don't have to invest real conservatively because you've got time on your side. But as you get close to your retirement, you'll want to move out of something probably into a pretty secure type of investment. And we'll talk more about that in a little while. But 3 things I want you to know when it comes to pitfalls for retirement planning. We start too late, we put away too little, we invest too conservatively. All right. The largest, I cut this off on my sheet. It may be cut off on yours too. Sources of retirement income, Exhibit 14-.2. Here's what I want you to be familiar with. The largest source of retirement income for most people is, what do you think? What's the largest source of retirement income? If you guess Social Security, you guess correctly. Most all Americans pay into Social Security, and they're going to get a Social Security check when they reach retirement age. Okay. So just be familiar with the fact. I want you to know the 3 greatest pitfalls as far as retirement is concerned. But I want you to be familiar with the largest source of retirement income is Social Security. Okay. Let's talk just a little bit about Social Security. It is the federal government's basic retirement program for working Americans. Now you've paid, so if any of you have worked, and I know most of you have, if you've worked at a job, they have taken out Social Security, right? You know, they take some taxes out of your check. That's Social Security. Now I don't want to get crazy about this, but Social Security, when you talk about the taxes that come out of your check, it's 7.65%. I don't think it's changed. I should have looked this up before I came in here, but I still think it's 7.65%, if I'm not mistaken. That comes out of your paycheck, and most people will say that's for Social Security, and that's pretty much correct. Here's actually what it's for. 6.20 is for Social Security, 1.45 is for Medicare, a total of 7.65. So you are, when I get that Social Security check, is that something the government's giving me? No. Something you've paid for over your entire career. Now, if you look at my handout, I got a ton of stuff on here about Social Security. Not going to really get into that ton of stuff. Here's what I want you to be familiar with, that Social Security is a basic retirement program for working Americans. I also want you to be familiar with, when it comes to Social Security, you pay 7.65%. You pay that, employee. Also, the employer matches that. So the employer pays that as well. So the employee, you pay 7.65, your employer matches that 7.65. Hey, what if I'm self-employed? What if I don't have an employer? Then you pay both sides of it. You pay self-employment, you pay that tax. I think it's 15.3% if I got it right. Okay. So let's do this. Are you paying into Social Security? Yes. Do I think that you're going to get some type of Social Security check when you retire? And a lot of you will say no, but I disagree. I think you are. It's the basic retirement plan for Americans. It's provided by the federal government. There's a lot of old people around. Old people vote. old people want their Social Security checks. And you should too, as a young person, because that's going to be a part of your retirement. So do I think Social Security is going to be around for you? And the answer to that is yes. So here I go. I'm going to put down here for your retirement, I'm going to put this little box thing here, and I'm going to put Social Security. I'm also going to walk around behind the camera. Yeah, to make sure that you could see that little box, and you can. Okay. So that's what Social Security is. It's you contribute to Social Security, your employer does. Employee and employer. That comes out of your payroll. I want you to be familiar with that. All right. Now, you may also. I'm kind of looking at my handout here. Aside from Social Security, you may get some sort of a pension from your company. A pension is where you work for so many years, and as a result of working for so many years and earning a certain amount of money, your company is going to give you a pension, an amount of money once you retire. I'm in the Louisiana Teacher Retirement System. The Louisiana Teacher Retirement System says, we're going to look at your last 3 years of employment. What was your salary the last 3 years of employment? That's wrong. We're going to look at your highest 3 years of employment. What were your highest 3 years of employment? How long were you employed? There's a formula that they use, and based upon that, you're going to get a monthly amount from the time you retire the rest of your life. So you might get a pension. I get a pension eligible for a pension from Louisiana Teacher Retirement System. A lot of companies today, though, don't offer pensions. There's a statistic here that says today only 40% of workers in private sector are covered by employer pension plans. And when this book was written, probably by now it's down closer to 30 to 35. Pension plans are incredibly expensive to companies because when they are saying we're going to set aside this amount of money so that we can pay Joe Lane a pension for the rest of his life and he retires at 60 and he lives to 90 and we got to pay that for 30 years, there's a lot of financial obligation. So a lot of companies are moving to what they call a salary reduction plan. You're probably asking, do we need to know anything or be familiar with anything about a pension? No, I just threw that in because I'm building this up. Didn't have any knows or be familiar with when it relates to pensions. I just wanted you to be familiar with it. I'm sorry, I just wanted you to understand it as we were talking about it for retirement, not for testing purposes. Salary reduction plan. Have you ever heard of a 401k? If you're in the education world, I think it's a 403b. But in your, it's a 401k. Now, what is a 401k salary reduction plan? This is where a portion of your salary, your income, is set aside, and and the company will purchase or invest that money for you. What I said in my handout, salary reduction plan, 401k is the most popular. Part of employees' pay is withheld and invested. So that's very popular. Now, some companies will match that up to a certain percent. If you put up to 4% of your salary into a salary reduction plan or 401k, we'll match it up to 4%. So the company says, we'll throw in 4%, an amount the same as you're putting in. Do you want to take advantage of an employer match on a 401k plan? Yes. 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 Because you're doubling your money. If you're putting in $500, you're really putting in $1,000. It's a win-win-win situation. So when you've got that career job, if you have, it may not have a pension, but you have a 401k plan and you have an employer match, make sure you put in at least as much as what they'll match. Okay. So I'd be familiar with what a 401k plan. It's simply it's a plan. It's a retirement plan whereby a certain most part of an employee's pay is withheld and invested. Okay. And of course, if you have a match, that's great. But so you may not have a pension, but you may have a 401k plan. Okay. So you see kind of what we're doing here. We're building up your retirement in layers. And you may have one, two, well, you better have more than one. You may have 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6 of these different layers as far as your retirement is concerned. So I do want you to be familiar with what a salary reduction plan is. Now, I mentioned being self-employed a minute ago. If you're self-employed, how can you set aside money for retirement? One of the ways is what's called a KEO. Let me get this 401k out. 401k, I want you to be familiar with it, is where a part of an employee's pay is taken from their salary. As a matter of fact, that money that's taken from your salary, you don't have to pay taxes on it until you get it later. That's a nice feature. It's taken and invested in different types of investments through your company. And a lot of times you get a company match. Okay. That money becomes available to you when you retire. Now, let me explain something. If a company does not match a 401k plan, then they're not doing anything to contribute to your retirement. You're doing all of it yourself. Whereas in a pension, they were having to pay out tons and tons and tons of money after you retired. You see the difference? Even if they match with a 401k plan, which is good, the only thing they're obligated to do is the match. Once you retire, that's it. So you see how a 401k plan is a much less of a drain on companies, and that's why companies are moving away from pension plans to 401k plans. Okay, this KEO, K-E-O-G-H, I want you to be familiar with that. For self-employed, it's for self-employed individuals. You make specific payments that can be deducted from your income. It's kind of like you do if you were working, I mentioned if you were working for a company, the money that you put into a 401k, that's deducted off of your salary before you pay taxes. So that 401k money is not taxable at the time you make it, all right, which is kind of nice. It's tax deferred is what they call it. Okay, back to the KEO. I just want you to be familiar that as a self-employed person, a KEO plan is a way that you can put money into retirement. Now, how much, how long, that sort of thing, not going to get into that because it changes from year to year to year. But just be familiar with, as a self-employed person, you can invest in what's called a KEO plan. Now, virtually all working Americans can invest in an individual retirement account. I'd like you to be familiar with what an individual retirement, and I've put both of these on here. KEO for self-employed makes specified payments, can deduct from taxable income. In IRAs, a retirement plan open to any working American to which a person may contribute a specified amount each year. How much? I'm not going to tell you because it changes all the time. But just keep in mind that you could do, in addition to something like this, you could also do an IRA. A little bit further down, I mentioned an annuity before. Let me kind of talk about, I want you to be familiar with what an annuity is. An investment product created by life insurance companies that provides a series of payments over time. It's the systematic liquidation of an estate. Whoa, wait a minute, it's time for water, excuse me. Okay. My wife and I, Now this is very conservative, but the money that we had in our mutual funds investments, we moved the majority of that over to an annuity. So we have a certain amount of money in an annuity. Now, that money that we have in an annuity is invested, but it's invested very conservatively. There's a guarantee that we'll never lose our annuity. In other words, that annuity is firm. We're not guaranteed how much the investment's going to be, and they're going to invest very conservatively. But then each month, we get a check out of this annuity account. Where did this annuity account come from? It came from our mutual funds. But an annuity, it's ours. It's in an account. It's not an investment. It's an amount of money that we have set aside that this company is investing it for interest purposes, but we're guaranteed never to lose any principal of our money. Does that make sense? We may not get any interest, but we're not going to lose any principal. So this is paid out monthly to us. It's very secure. I won't say there's no risk. I don't know if there's no risk in anything. A comet could come in here and hit this building right now, but there's very little risk in an annuity. Okay. So an annuity is another type of an investment thing. I'll stick it up here. I'll just put A-N-N. Okay. So I want you to be familiar with what an annuity is. An investment product created by life insurance companies that provides a series of payments over time. It's a systematic liquidation of an estate. It's simply money that you have placed in. Now, you can do annuities other ways. You can pay into an annuity over years. And then at some point you quit paying into it and say, okay, I want to start taking the proceeds out. And you do that as a part of your investment income. We didn't do that. We paid into mutual funds through the years because we felt like that would grow a larger amount. And then as we got right close to Lisa's retirement, we put that lump sum amount into an annuity. Okay, let me do a couple more things here. I'm going to do something else you're not supposed to do. Let me go back behind the camera again. I'm still here. Oh yeah. You might do some investments of your own. Okay? You may do some investments outside of anything with the business. You may do some personal investing. You may decide to get a part-time job, something you enjoy doing. So here's what I'm doing. Here's what I'm trying to show you here. The way to plan for retirement is to layer your retirement. You're going to have probably just some savings. Not money that you have invested, just the money you have saved. I mean, you may have it in a CD or something, but I mean, basically it's just liquid assets money. So here's what we've done. We've layered our retirement. Now, so way back here, you've been preparing for retirement. How have you been doing that? If you have a job where you're paying Social Security, you're paying in Social Security. You're also taking advantage of a pension or a 401k. If you're not getting a pension, you're doing a 401k. It's always good to find companies, when you go to work, do you have a retirement plan? And if they match your 401k amount up to 4%, make sure you do at least put 4% away. You may, outside of a 401k, you might do an IRA. Or you might be paying into an annuity, some of this stuff over here. You may be doing some, I'm not saying you're going to do all of this stuff. You certainly are going to do this, and you certainly want to do one of these. You may be doing some investments of your own. You may be saving some money, just saving it yourself, and you may be working part-time. So you've layered up for retirement. And so now, whether you're in retirement for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years, you've got enough layers of retirement, you're going to be able to live the way you want to live. Okay? Now, and that's why a lot of this, you can start way back here. You can start way back here. Now, not to get personal, but to kind of sum this up on planning for retirement, how important is it? Really, very important. Now, the next question is, Joe ain't going to retire. Someday probably. When I quit having fun. Or y'all run me off. But here's the thing. I've paid into Social Security, and my wife has paid into Social Security. So we both are eligible for Social Security retirement. I was in the teacher retirement system. Still am. My wife was a teacher in teacher retirement system. We are both eligible for a pension from the teacher retirement system. Both eligible for Social Security, both eligible for a pension. We put money into a 401k mutual fund in addition to the pension we knew we were going to get. Put that into an annuity. So we now have an annuity that we're getting money from each month. We don't have any IRAs. We don't really have any investments outside of our annuity, if you want to call it that. I may dabble a little bit, but it has nothing to do with retirement. Part-time, well, I'm still doing full-time. And do we have savings? Do we have just some money saved in the bank, in savings account? The answer, we do. So you see, we've got several layers. Now, are we going to become filthy rich and probably buy our own private jet? Probably not. But are we going to be able, or are we able to live comfortably in retirement? Yes. So that's the idea. I think that pretty much takes care of the retirement chapter 14. It's an interesting chapter. I've gone over, I think the only no in here were those pitfalls, and I went over some of those to be familiar with as well. But not for testing purposes, but just for knowledge purposes. Make sure you think about retirement. Don't wait too late. Think about retirement, and make sure you layer up for retirement. Okay, that is chapter 14. Hey, we got one more chapter. I'm going to go back. They got to redo the makeup. Again, a little more of the hairstyling has to be done. Get all that done, and in a few minutes, I'm going to come back here. I'm not sure exactly when you're going to watch chapter 15, but I'm going to come back here and do chapter 15 pretty quickly. Okay, you know the drill. I have to make a loud noise, so Professor Pierce, my executive producer, will know that I've finished a chapter. So I'm getting ready to clap my hands now that we have finished getting all of us retired. Thank you.